Welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you in this webinar. As you know, healthcare industry takes a dominant role in artificial intelligence research. As Magnimind Academy, we have instructors who have healthcare domain knowledge and combine this knowledge and AI-based applications. So if you are interested in learning AI or try to increase your knowledge in this field, you are very welcome to our bootcamps. The links of our bootcamps are provided in the chat. You can click on it and visit our website to get more information about that. Dr. Tolga is our speaker today. He is assistant professor at the Department of Computer Information Science, Arkansas Tech University. He received his PhD degree in computer science from Istanbul University in 2009. His research interests are machine learning, deep learning, and pattern recognition. He has published more than 70 scientific articles, book chapters, and has been cited more than 500 times in the literature. He founded a machine learning research lab, and he has 20 plus years of experience in machine learning and artificial intelligence. He also has been serving as a reviewer and a committee member for several scientific journals and conferences, including Nature, Neurocomputing, Cambridge University Press, Neural Network, and so on. He also has 3 patents. So as you see that he has a very strong, CV. So I will let Dr. Tolga to present his, to host this webinar. Thank you so much for attending.
Okay, thank you, Abdullah, for your introduction part and for your great organization for in the summer, at the end of the July. And I would like to also say thank you to all participants in the middle of the summer and their interaction, connection to that in artificial intelligence, especially in healthcare. Let me share my screen, then I will use the presentation file. I will share my screen with you on Zoom account. Okay, I'm very glad I'm here and I'm with you, and I will do my best to have the best efficiency and the best presentation for today's session. I prepared the presentation file, and we will have 2 hours. After 1 hour and 50 minutes, we will have a question and answer session at the end of this presentation. This will take 10 minutes. So totally, we will be together 2 hours. And the title of the research talk for the Magnimind Academy is the Artificial Intelligence in Healthcare. This is one of the hot research topic, and for researchers, for both in academia and industry. And you can see my email address here. This is the tensari@atu.edu. If you also prefer to use the LinkedIn account, if you have the LinkedIn account, you can reach me out anytime from the LinkedIn. My LinkedIn account is also active. I will reply your questions and your also other messages on the LinkedIn, so we can stay connected after this presentation if you want. So thank you again for the Magnimind Academy for preparing and organizing for this research talk. This is an outline for today's presentation. I will start with giving the definition of the artificial intelligence in a brief case, especially. Then we will continue in the second part. We will continue with how can we use the AI as an artificial intelligence, the first letters of the artificial intelligence in healthcare, and how AI affects healthcare. In the third part for this presentation, we will classify AI use cases in healthcare. We will classify AI use in healthcare. Especially, I will try to give perspective. I will try to give the taxonomy of that AI in healthcare in this presentation. Hopefully, this will be efficient for all of us. And in the part 4, I will mention some challenge. Does AI have some challenge and some problems in healthcare, maybe in the other also application areas and use cases? Yes, it has. So we will mention about, and we will see some terms and keywords about the challenge of the artificial intelligence in the part 4. In the part 5, I will show some AI use case same examples and samples. This part can be long because I prepared lots of titles from the scientific journals and scientific conferences and scientific databases for this part. So we will see lots of use cases in healthcare. And in part 6, I will show my references for this presentation, and we will conclude our research talk today. And I also quoted the references in the slides. For example, if you see 5 in a brackets, in a rectangle brackets, it means it refers to reference 5. But I will show all the references at the end of this slide. I prefer to put it in at the end of this presentation PowerPoint file. And in the last part, we will have a Q&A session as a question and answers. I will try to do my best to reply your questions. And we will have 10 minutes for the Q&A session. I would like to start the definition of the artificial intelligence. Actually, there are lots of definitions. There are lots of interactions with the other disciplines in artificial intelligence. We can summarize it. I'm trying to make it easy for you. I'm trying to give a perspective about, especially in the taxonomy and the use cases of the AI in healthcare. Actually, AI is a new way of thinking. So we are trying to train computers, and we are trying to get results as an image, sometimes voice and or sound, and sometimes as a text, sometimes as a signal. It doesn't matter if we have the data. So it means we can use the AI approach for this purpose. And it is also the complex decision making. We are trying to make a decision in our daily life, but if we have lots of features, if we have lots of attributes, and if we have lots of samples, how can we decide the result of that problem or the result of that part? So AI give some algorithms and some new algorithmic approach to have the complex decision making. So these two keywords, these two parts can explain AI in a brief case. You can also find hundreds of the definitions of AI in the other resources, in other books, maybe some scientific articles about AI. Actually, AI is a big umbrella. We have also some subparts, subdivisions under the AI. One of the division is the machine learning that I wrote here. This is the machine learning part. And especially machine learning algorithms today, they are very popular in both AI and other use cases in application areas. So when we use machine learning, we are trying to actually interact also. Actually, we have to interact with other disciplines. Why? Because AI and machine learning is an interdisciplinary research area that covers lots of the other parts of the departments or disciplines. For instance, statistics or statistical learning theory and calculus and algorithm-based approach and programming part are the main parts of the machine learning and AI. But it depends of our data sets. For example, I also mentioned earlier, if we have a data set, any kind of data sets, it means we can use the AI approach to find a patterns, also to find some meaningful some results from that patterns or some data sets in AI approach. So if you have, for example, video data or vision data, so it means you need to use also some computer vision approach, some signal processing approach, and some digital signal processing approach with AI and machine learning algorithms. So we cannot divide them. We cannot divide these areas. So it is actually application dependent. It depends on the application areas. So you may need some statistical approach, or you may need some feature extractor for the computer vision. You may need edge detector. You may need to make the edge detection. Also, you may need to also some feature extractor like Hawk transform as a histogram of the gradients, or SIFT transform scale of interval features. Also, there are also, or LBP, it means the locally binary patterns. Actually, these are some feature extractions in the computer vision. So it depends on the application area. If you work on visual data, so you may need some signal processing and computer vision based algorithms approach, also maybe some segmentation approach from the computer vision. Also, if you have some voice data, you may also need some use maybe Fourier transforms. Also, if you have the EEG or EMG data, so you need to use also some signal processing approach, maybe some other theorems from the signal processing, and especially digital signal processing. Or if you have a text data, so you will also need to use some new approach for the text data. You have to digitalize the text data like the word vector as a deep learning based algorithm, or bag of words if you have a text data. So you need to use the natural language processing. Or if you have also some data in Excel or spreadsheet format, you can also use the AI approach in this part in very different disciplines and some algorithms. So how can we use AI in healthcare? We can make the early detection, for example, early detection of the brain tumor, or early detection of cancer, early detection of Alzheimer's disease, also maybe other parts in the healthcare. So we can make a diagnosis. We can monitor patients, or we can monitor patients' data. We can make a disease detection, reasoning, modeling, and we can use all the clinical based data sets, clinical trials. Also, we can construct the personalized medicine approach. We can have also the predictions about it, analyzing, and some smart electronic health records like the wearable sensors and wearable electronic devices in healthcare. This is the graph of that AI multiple in healthcare. You can see also the link, also the source of that graph. So you can see the AI can be used in the patient care, like the patient data analytics, pregnancy management, personalized medications, and assisted or automated diagnosis and prescriptions. And the other part can be classified to the medical image and diagnostics. So medical imaging, especially important for the radiology. So we may have some also studies for early diagnosis in the medical image, or some maybe some COVID-19 detection with the lung images and radiology based, actually some Röntgen, X-ray also, or CT as a computer tomography images. And we can use also AI in healthcare under the management as a market research, as a pricing and risk, and brand management and marketing. And in the research and development case, there are lots of alternatives, and today I will mention about them. The first one can be the drug discovery, because we know also we have the COVID-19 problem more than 1 year, and AI approach especially has been used for drug discovery as a vaccination production phases, and also for the computer tomography images for the lung and also the other parts of that our body. So drug discovery is one of the important part, or we can also say that the drug dosing, the dose of the drugs also important. We can develop a smart system and smart software, and it can give the result of that amount of the toxic, especially dose for the drugs. For example, if in the pharmacology, especially in the pharmacology, if scientists develop any drug in, for example, 7 or 8 years, it can be decreased to 2 or 3 years. With the AI algorithms, with the AI and machine learning based approach. We can also use the AI in healthcare under the gene analytics and editing and device and drug comparative effectiveness, genomics, proteomics, especially protein structure and protein motif discovery, and protein-protein interaction, and structure prediction, for example, the secondary structure prediction. These are some titles in healthcare with AI. This slide is one of the most important slides in this presentation. How can we classify AI use cases in healthcare? I tried to put some titles from the healthcare in 3 titles. We have 3 classes as a basic medical science, internal medical science, and surgical medical sciences. You can see AI can be used in anatomy, biophysics, biostatics, physiology, histology, and so on, microbiology under the basic medical science. And for the internal medical sciences, for AI can be used under the forensic medicine, dermatology, and physical therapy and rehabilitation, public health, cardiology, neurology, oncology, and especially for the cancer research, radiology, mental health. It is one of the rising problem for people after the COVID-19, for the mental health management especially, and so on, as a sport medicine and medical genetics. And as a third part, the surgical medical sciences, AI can be used under the oral and maxillofacial surgery, anesthesiology, and brain and nerve, ophthalmology, gynecology, cardiovascular surgery, and traumatology, pathology, and urology, and also other parts in healthcare. So these are some main parts of healthcare that can be used with AI as a basic medical sciences, internal medical sciences, and surgical medical sciences. So there are lots of titles can be derived from these 3 main items in this presentation. So in this part, in this presentation, in this slide, I'm trying to give the definition of the machine learning. You can see, as I also mentioned earlier, artificial intelligence, AI is a big umbrella, and machine learning is a part of the AI. And these are some learning approach and learning definitions under the machine learning, such as supervised learning, reinforcement learning, semi-supervised learning based on some statistical methods and some AI. It represents the computational imitation of the human intelligence. These two slides also will give us some use cases, especially AI in healthcare. I only used AI in this part, AI in medical imaging, genomics, proteomics, and so on. So I avoid the repetition of the AI in work here. So it continues the AI in medical imaging. For example, for the COVID-19 disease detection, cancer detection, tumor detection in anywhere in the body, especially in the brain or in the maybe skin, also in the other parts. Diabetic retinopathy detection from the eye images, especially microscopic image recognition, for example, bone density detection. So these are some radiology application areas and radiology parts used in AI. The other use case in AI in healthcare is the genomics, proteomics, mental health care, especially in the psychology, psychiatry, and trauma. Also, the post-traumatic stress disorder, it means the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. This is one of the problem for today's world, for especially veterans from the military, after the military service. They may have some difficulties with their psychological world. So trauma also is one of the rising title in mental health care, because after disasters, for example, hurricanes, earthquakes, some wars, also some after the military services, people also for COVID-19, it's also a kind of the trauma for the people. After the COVID-19, also we may have lots of traumatic problems for the people for all over the world under the mental healthcare title. For the oncology part, we may use AI as in the cancer detection, classification, like the leukemia cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, brain cancer, lymphoma, colon cancer, and so on. There are lots of the cancer types, maybe over 20 or 30 cancers under the oncology. This is also only the brief part as an AI in oncology. Personalized medicine is one of that rising title because everyone has a different body and everyone has a different structure in their body. So personalized treatment or personalized medicine is also important in AI. Epidemic prediction, plastic surgery. I will also give lots of use cases and examples in the next slides about the plastic surgery, for example, also the other mental health care, genomics, and EEG or EMG signals, neuroimaging, as a microarray data, as a DNA, microRNA, RNA, in the terms of the target prediction or sequencing and the pathology in the diabetes, eye care, neurology, protein interaction, especially in the bioinformatics. Bioinformatics also has lots of the division under its title. The other AI use cases are neurosurgery, pain management, heart and vascular care, Alzheimer detection, monitoring, and Parkinson detection and monitoring, telehealth and online health. After the COVID pandemic, online health and online disease detection was very powerful and very helpful because people cannot go somewhere because of the coronavirus. So that's why telehealth or online health have some importance after the COVID-19 disease and COVID-19 pandemic. So it will rise also in the next decades. I'm sure, especially for the old people, for the people who has, for example, a virus, or also for other problems. And I will also show a use case, an example with the flow cytometry data in AI in healthcare. I will also give the definition of the flow cytometry device. It's a device and it counts some cells in the blood. The device looks like a printer actually, and it counts the cell types from the blood in a tube. So after counting, after gathering information, after getting information from flow cytometry, we can use some clustering approach to cluster that data in that blood and to show some different shapes of that blood points, blood drops, which cause maybe any problems in that for that patient. Also, orthopedics is one of that use case in the AI. The other part is the drug discovery. I mentioned it in the previous a few slides ago, actually. Gene expression analysis, microdata analysis, wearable health tools, also for the bacteria analysis. In the pharmacology, it is a huge application area for the AI. Maybe the most important part is drug discovery or drug dosing in the pharmacology. Dentistry, DNA or protein motif discovery as a image data set, actually, and so on. So these are some use cases for AI in healthcare. Is it possible to continue from this point? Yes, you can also find hundreds of the title for AI use cases in healthcare. So let me continue with this slide with some basic medical science and internal medicine science, surgical medicine science, genomics, and other use cases in AI in healthcare title. For the basic medical sciences, we can use, for example, some lung images, especially in the COVID-19. AI actually has been using to develop vaccination, also some drugs. Also, it has been using the disease detection from the lung X-ray images or from the radiology department. So if we train the system with that images which have problem or which has a COVID-19, so we can ask to the system if we have a patient, if she or he has COVID-19 problem or not. So in biophysics, also the structural protein scoring functions are important. So in the biophysics, we can use in the structure prediction, the CAPS repository in the structure prediction for the proteins with the AI approach. And you can see also the references, these images and these also explanations are from the reference one, and so on. You can see the references. I will show them at the end of the slides, at the end of the presentation as a reference list. In internal medical sciences, for example, for the forensic medicine, from the reference number 3, machine learning was used to overcome some these problems for the forensic under the forensic medicine part. We can track some problems. We can also use some face recognition algorithms, also some maybe fingerprint, hand written recognition print, also some clues from the blood cells, also other, for example, from the hairs. There are lots of the evidences in the forensic medicine, and all of them can be used under the AI title in this manner. For the child health, also AI can be used in some detection of the disease and some classified and some blood data sets, and also other computer vision based data sets. So this is the vessel disease, especially for the diabetics retinopathy. In the diabetics retinopathy recognition, we can classify the eye images. You can see this is the microscopic image of an eye. So the system can decide if this eye or if this patient has a diabetes or not. So this is the classification problem. We can use two different classes at the end of the, for example, layer in the output layer as a 1 or 0, or yes or no in the terms of that classification result. So we can classify diabetes for new patients after the training the system with enough data sets. So you can see also vessel, some disease also as a tree. It looks like a tree, and it looks like the roots of the trees. So these images can be trained in with the machine learning algorithms. So then we can develop a system which makes decision about the diabetes or some vessel disease. In the surgical medical science, we can use AI and machine learning algorithms under the oral and maxillofacial surgery, brain and nerve surgery, especially neuroscience is one of the popular area for AI for healthcare. For the orthopedics and traumatology, for example, these are some images, some bone images, or some kind of that body. If we train the system with this part, so we can find the fractures, we can find, for example, the bone density. We can have the estimation of that bone density parts in the orthopedics and traumatology. You can also see references as a reference 6, 7, 8 in the brackets from these articles, from these publications. In genomics, especially DNA and RNA sequencing is important to have accurate result. For example, in the cell type A and in cell type B, we have the protein structures. We have nucleotides here as a DNA sequence actually, and this sequence is the the adenine, cytosine, thymine, guanine, and so on. We have make a sequencing. We can use the algorithm to make sequence result of the sequence for DNA and RNA part. For example, with the messenger RNA, microRNA, and also the other types of the RNA with the tRNA and so on. This is also an image from the scientific article from reference 9 that I will show at the end of the presentation. So in genomics, we can extract the features with the some feature extractor algorithms in the machine learning, and we can classify the models, we can develop layers here, and we can also use some regression models if we need for simple problems under the genomics part. Again, for this publication from the reference 29, machine learning analysis using over the 77,000 genomic and transcriptomatic profiles to accurately predict the tumor type. So actually, this is the tumor detection in the genomics. So in this publication, the authors tried to use uh, the AI to predict the tumor type from the genomics data. This is also the flow chart of that diagram in their publication, the 29, that I will show at the end of the presentation. As I mentioned earlier, also the mental health care is a rising title and will be the rising title in the in the next 1 or 2 decades, because people have lots of problems, as an economic problem, as a pandemic problem, also some disaster problems after disasters. So it triggers the psychological problems and maybe psychiatric problems. So mental health care management will be more important in the next few years. So you can see also some functional connectivity in ASD infants in these slides, especially in this publication in the number 10. There are the others also trying to find some disorders, some automatical system. They are trying to build automatic systems to find some disorders occurs in young children, also for the matures, also for the other peoples, especially peoples who were in a disaster, or people also other around the world. So we can use machine learning to predict and to monitor mental health care consumption in the non-affective psychosis. So in this publication, in the reference 30, others also use some AI approach and machine learning approach to detect psychological problems. And you can see they collected data sets in their, I think in the hospital, over 1,000 patients, and they are trying to analyze their data, and they are trying to also make automatic prediction, and they are trying to develop automated system, self-automated system to monitor and to detect problems under the mental health care management. Also, people sometimes have some depressive symptoms, also for young people, also for children, also for adults. And machine learning also can be used to detect some depression from their data. This data can be also some voice-based data, image-based data, also handwritten-based data, also some other kind of also radiology images. So this is one of the use case for AI in mental health care. In this slide, I would like to give a definition of the PTSD. PTSD means the post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's defined as a traumatic injury developed after facing or witnessing a life-threatening experience or event, such as a natural disaster, a pandemic, a serious accident, war, combat, rape, or other violent personal assaults. So people may have the PTSD problem after these bad things. So is it possible to use artificial intelligence and machine learning in the PTSD detection or mental health care? Yes, it's possible. So in this article, post-traumatic stress disorder management, a machine learning approach, authors used especially some survey results and some prediction system and detection system for people who has the PTSD. So is it possible to automate? Is it possible to develop the automated system which detects the PTSD from the data sets, for example, from the surveys, from the questionnaires, from the voice-based data, also handwritten data? Yes, it's possible. So these automated systems will be more popular in the next few years. I believe that for under the AI in mental health care management. So is it possible to use AI in oncology, especially for the cancer studies? Yes, maybe the most applications of AI have been using in the cancer research. You can also see some resources from the National Institute of Health, also from the National Science Foundation. You can find also from the other scientific databases, you can find millions of the studies about the cancer, like the technical report, scientific paper, and other type of the documents from these resources. So for example, this is the stomach cancer, and if we train the system, if we train our software, the cancer can be detected automatically from these parts of the body, not only for the stomach, but also for the brain cancer or tumor detection, skin cancer, also other lymphoma cancer, prostate cancer, leukemia cancer, colon cancer, and other types of the cancer. So the system can classify the image or can make a prediction if that patient has a cancer or not, or this cancer type also can be classified in a scale. For example, with the maybe some scores, the system can give a score, the degree of that cancer, also the definition of that cancer under the artificial intelligence in oncology. In this slide, this is from the reference 33, and see here, CT means the computer tomography. This is the radiology-based images. You can see some images, computer tomography. Radiomics, the base machine learning classification of a typical cartilaginous tumors and appendicular chondrosarcomas. So that I also mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, if we study with the computer vision, it means we will need some computer vision algorithms like the feature extractor as a histogram of the gradients, as a local binary patterns, for example, as a SIFT algorithms, also some edge detector or edge detection algorithms, and also other parts of the signal processing approach. So segmentation is also one of the main parts of the computer vision. We can make a segmentation from the raw images in the oncological part, and during the pre-processing part, we can convert it to the gray level. We can normalize the data, and we can remove the repetitions, and we can also add some new data. It means the data augmentation in the pre-processing part if we have a little amount of data, because people generally use special deep learning algorithms nowadays in the last decade, and it needs intensive data sets, intensive data, especially in the computer vision part. So if you have only little amount of data, so you may increase that amount of data with data augmentation algorithms. For example, adversarial AGN networks, also some deep learning, unsupervised deep learning algorithms, also autoencoder are some of that data augmentation algorithms during the pre-processing part. So we can use filtering. We can use some signal processing approach as a Kalman filter, as a Laplacian filter, Gaussian filter, also wavelet. This is also one of that decomposition definition in the signal processing. So the filtering part also will be important to catch tumors, to detect tumors in the image-based data set in oncology. So after the feature extraction part and feature selection part with stability analysis, variance analysis, and other part, machine learning can classify these images if they have a cancer or not, or the number of the classes also can be increased, not only for 0 and 1. For example, we can design a system like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can have the 5 different classes according to that disease, according to that part of healthcare. So it depends on the application area and use case, this part. So I would like to also mention about some machine learning network design. Actually, we have the unsupervised, supervised, and semi-supervised algorithms in the machine learning, and we generally focus on machine learning part. But we have to see the entire system. The entire system can be seen here. So it means we may need the segmentation from the computer vision, and we may need some data pre-processing. It means we will need some statistical approach, maybe some probabilistic approach, also some sampling, some calculus, some mathematical based approach in data pre-processing. And in the filtering or signal processing part, we may need some conversions, some algorithms like the Fourier transform, like the Z transform, Laplacian filter, Kalman filter, Gaussian filter, wavelet filter, and so on. So it means we have to interact with the other disciplines in the signal processing and feature extraction, feature selection. Actually, we don't have to use the feature selection for each life cycle of that AI implementation, but sometimes we use this feature selection and we use the feature extractor as a machine learning or AI part. So in this image, we can also again see the segmentation is the computer vision based part, especially which uses some approach theorems and algorithms from the computer vision, and pre-processing parts are generally the statistical, they have general statistical approach. Filtering or other signal processing parts are generally based on the signal processing or digital signal processing. We generally call it DSP as a digital signal processing. We have to process the signal, otherwise we cannot train that images, these images, or we cannot use data sets directly for the machine learning part. After these preparations, we will able to use the feature extraction, maybe feature selection, and machine learning as a classifier or cluster. So we have to know some computer vision based, some signal processing based, some statistical based, and some mathematical based methods, theorems, algorithms, especially from the linear algebra, from the probability theory and statistics, and so on. So if you don't use any image based data or any video based data, so you don't have to use, for example, some signal processing based approach. So it's algorithm is application dependent problem. So it depends of your research title. Also, you can see lots of researchers and lots of engineers or lots of startup tech companies, they only focus on the medical imaging. Medical imaging. This is one of the most popular area in the last, for example, maybe 20 years. You can see also some research labs, they only focus, they only study in the under the computer vision. As a medical image segmentation, as some classification, some edge detection, and some also other types of that applications under the artificial intelligence umbrella. So let me continue with the next slides. Artificial intelligence in the plastic surgery. In the plastic surgery, we can think about how can we use AI or machine learning based algorithms in plastic surgery. This is also a scientific article from the reference 12. I will show all of them at the end of the next presentation. And we can think about the plastic surgery. After plastic surgery, maybe the people or that person have maybe different part of face, different part of maybe other body parts, but we need to check that part if it is okay or not. We can also construct a, for example, performance score before maybe plastic surgery and after the plastic surgery. So for example, if you have any problem in your, for example, arm, after the plastic surgery, after taking some photos, the performance score can be developed, and the performance score can be seen from that trained system with the AI in plastic surgery title. The other part in AI healthcare is the automated lab reporting. This is also the scientific articles from the reference 13. Actually, lab reporting takes time of especially physicians, medical doctors, some nurses, some also other healthcare workers. So it takes time. So is it possible to have the automatic lab reporting, for example, for pathology, for also other types? Generally, we have also limit. We have, for example, if, for example, for the diabetes, if the diabetes value over that 0.5, it means that person has a diabetes problems. So in this manner, these are simple and quite easy approach, but especially for that explanation based or lots of comparative, if the report has need some explanations, need some paragraphs, need some comparative results with the previous, for example, report, for the also for the future reports. So we can employ the artificial intelligence, this automated lab reporting system. So after the automatic reporting system, thousands of that energy and work will be saved when this automated system is used. So this is also one of that hot topic in that AI in healthcare. In this slide, you can see EEG signals. These are and EMG signals analysis. This is also the signal processing based approach actually or application. So it means we need to use some frequency approach, maybe some theorems, maybe some templates, some approach like the Fourier transform, also like the other signal processing based algorithms during the application. So generally, in the real life, generally machine learning, also artificial intelligence is not enough because we have to think the entire system. We have to think the filters, we have to think also the signal processing part or computer vision part of if it is or if the data sets has a some text, so we have to use the natural language processing part. We call it the NLP, with the natural language processing. We have to think about as a whole system as a signal analysis based or computer vision based algorithm. So AI or machine learning will be only some part of that system. But we generally focus on the machine learning. We generally focus on the developing an algorithm and presenting a new algorithm. But we have to think the whole system to have better results, to have better accuracies and the other metrics. I would like to also mention about some metrics, some performance metrics in AI. Generally, it depends on the application, but especially for the clustering approach, we use mutual information and normalized mutual information as a metric. We use the entropy. We know, entropy has some formula with a logarithm based 2. We use the entropy measure. We use the normalized mutual information and others in the clustering part. In the classification part, we use F1 score, accuracy, precision, recall, and other metrics from the confusion metrics. After the classification, for example, if we compare two classifiers, we have to measure more than, for example, 2, 3, sometimes 4 performance metrics. Sometimes people only use the accuracy, but this will definitely will not be enough for comparing two classifiers. For example, one of them has 95% accuracy, and if other has 96% accuracy, it doesn't mean 96% accuracy and the system is better. So we have to check the other measures like the specificity, sensitivity, precision, recall, F1 score, accuracy, and the other parts. So we have to care about all metrics as a table or in a table or illustrated graph. Then we can decide this classifier is better or this classifier is the best one or the worst one. In pathology, is it possible to use AI? Yes, exactly. We can use it. And this image and these explanations belongs to reference 15. You can see this is the pathology image. This is the image patch from that images, and we can use the segmentation neural networks and some forward and backward propagation to analyze and extract the features for pathologic image, to have some decisions, to have some automated decisions after the training and testing the software. So generally, we are trying to develop the intelligent software as an AI or machine learning based software. So we also sometimes call it intelligent software or smart software in healthcare. So this is also another publication and machine learning classification for the surgical pathology reports. Again, this is the automated report part with the chunk recognition for information extraction with the noise reduction. You know, sometimes if you go to the doctor or maybe hospital, they can give lots of the papers and lots of explanations with, especially with the specific terms in the healthcare. So is it possible to extract the most important features, extract the most important part, or is it possible to write a lab report automatically with the NLP as a natural language processing approach? Yes, it is possible. So we can work on the text mining especially, and we can use, for example, topic detection or document classification or document clustering methods in some kind of documents or lab reports, not only in pathology, but also for the other part of that healthcare. Let me continue with the Parkinson detection and monitoring. There are lots of publications about the Parkinson disease, and machine learning is one of the helpful tool or helpful approach to detect the Parkinson for people. Actually, you can sequence the DNA or RNA data like the nucleotides, or you can have, for example, image or video data sets. You can detect the Parkinson, or you can monitor the people if they have the Parkinson, potential Parkinson problem or not. So maybe the surveillance system for the Parkinson detection can be developed with the AI. And after that, if you see some videos that in that, for example, camera or surveillance system, the system give any kind of result for example, this people has a Parkinson, or these people has not a Parkinson, or these people or these people have a potential Parkinson problem. So this can be classified in the 3 classes, for example. So it's important to implement it as a early diagnosis of the Parkinson disease using machine learning algorithms. This is also the scientific paper, and these notes was taken from the reference 36, because Parkinson, also Alzheimer are one of that problems in our daily life for around all over the world. So these are some Parkinson slides. This is another publication from the reference 37. So if we modify our data set, if you collect data from the visual recorded information, or maybe the image-based, also maybe text-based, we can decide, or also this the system can decide if that person has a Parkinson or not. Is it possible to detect Parkinson maybe from the text data? I don't know. We can also take a look about the text data with the Parkinson. The next use case, AI in healthcare, is orthopedics. So for fractures, for bones, also for traumatology and orthopedics, we can definitely use the AI approach with as a computer vision based algorithms, and we can predict the bone density. We can find, you can see this image from the Science Direct scientific database. If we take, for example, some part of that bone and we can simulate it and we can train the system and we can use some segmentation algorithms from the computer vision to check the problems, to also see the potential problems in that area in orthopedics. I mentioned the drug discovery at the beginning of that this presentation in the outline part. This is one of that hot topics for both academia and industry. Actually, uh, this scientific publications, this scientific publication refers to its reference 20, and generally, drug companies they have to use lots of approach. They have to pay lots of cost to develop a new drug. So is it possible to decrease the cost with AI algorithms? Yes, it's possible. If any drug, for example, takes 7 or 8 years to develop and to use it, we can decrease it in the 2, maybe 3 years with AI algorithms. So we can eliminate with the unsuccessful, for example, approach with this DNA or RNA sequencing, or with some visual applications. Also with the rats, they generally use the rats during the drug discovery process, so we can save energy and work, and we can have better results when we use AI in drug discovery. As I also mentioned earlier, in COVID-19, AI has been used for both radiology and in drug discovery, and also, I believe, in the other parts of the healthcare. In this slide, I would like to give information about the wearable health tools. Actually, if we develop any device, for example, you can use some Raspberry 2, 3, 4, or maybe other types of that electronic cards, or maybe some processor to develop any wearable health tools. We generally develop with the hardware, actually, applications with the hardware approach. And when we develop any new health tool, we have to analyze data. So how can we analyze that data online, in a cloud, or in an edge computing, as an edge intelligence? We can record data in a cloud, in an online platform, and this data can be analyzed with some AI and machine learning based algorithm. And for example, you can see smart finger, smart bracelet, smart belt, smart glass, ring, some key tracker, smart shoes, and so on, smart watch. This is popular nowadays. You can see, or you can use smartwatch to see your health care data in your daily life. So we can see them, we can see these devices, we can use these devices, but how can we see the result of the analysis? So is it possible to send this data to any doctor No, it's not possible. Or is it possible to make any decision with our mind? No, actually it's possible, but this will not be efficient. So we have to construct the automated system as an intelligent system that process the data with the AI algorithms. So after that AI algorithms, these devices will give results, for example, for your heart, for your kidney, for your maybe muscles, for your eye, maybe for your also other part of your body. And this results, this slide is about the pain management. Is it possible to use AI in pain management? Yes, it is. So this is also a scientific article from the reference 22. And these are some images from that person, from that man, uh, from the UMBC McMaster datasets. It shows pain actually from the images, and the system and intelligence software can decide, can make a decision if this person has a pain or not. Is it possible to classify the degree of the pain? Yes, it's possible. If you use, for example, 10 classifying outputs, 10 outputs, so it means if it is 0, it means no pain, and if it's 10, it means that person has a huge pain, or also other 4 degrees. For example, 5 means 50-50, or 7 means is high, or 2 or 3 means is low, and so on. So we can also classify, we can also use some scores to see the result of the pain from that images. So these images also can be taken from the video surveillance system, or some real-time video, if the person has a pain or not. For example, you can see in this feature extracted image, he or she has uh, pain. We can also classify the degree, the score of the pain uh, for these different images or video images. I would like to also mention the Alzheimer detection using artificial intelligence, or Alzheimer monitoring. Like the brain cancer application or tumor detection for the brain images from the radiology part, it's possible to also detect the Alzheimer from the brain images. So we can train the system with the Alzheimer brains and normal brains. Then if the new patient come, it means the brain image of the new patient, we can test it if that person has Alzheimer problem or not. You can see the healthy brain in this image and Alzheimer brain in that image from the reference 23, and these explanations from the scientific article. So we can classify it as that this person or this image, brain image, is healthy or Alzheimer. We can also give a percentage, like it's Alzheimer with the 73 percentage, or it's healthy with the 95 percentage, or something like that. Is it possible to use AI in the cerebellum? Cerebellum is a small part of our brain. Yes, it's possible. So for cerebrum and cerebellum is, I think, the jelly part of that brain, and we can use that some ganglia, cerebellum and thalamus images, also maybe some blood tests to detect and to classify some problems in the brain, especially in thalamus and cerebellum, and maybe in the visual cortex part also for the other jelly part of that our brain. I would like to mention about also the trauma part for the AI. For the diagnosis part, for example, for this uh, scientific paper from the reference 26, we can detect trauma. In the previous slides, we had pain management or pain detection. It looks like the same. Or we can also have the human activity recognition or human gesture recognition with AI. So AI can classify if this person is in trauma or not, or for human activity or action recognition, the AI can be classified if that person is happy in neutral case, or maybe sad, or maybe scared, or also the other types of that face. So this is also again the image-based application, computer vision-based use case for AI. In these, I think 2 or 3 slides, maybe one, maybe in other slides, yes, I would like to show the flow cytometry data from the reference 25. We can collect some blood drop or different shape of the blood cells, and when we collect data, we will have, you can see this kind of that map, this kind of that data sets in our flow cytometry device. It looks like a printer. You put a blood in a tube, and tube drops in, I think, milliseconds or seconds in another tube, and during that dropping part, lasers scatters in that mirror, and these are scatter results of that blood shapes or blood cell shapes. So we are trying to cluster these blood cells if this is a problem for that person or not. You can see this is a small shape, so, or maybe spiral shape, or this is the 2 circle shape also for the others. So you can see this is the important clustering problem, or important typical clustering problem for machine learning. Again, for the heart and vascular care, from the reference 27, it can be used also for the AI. So is it possible to use the histology? Yes, it's possible. You can see we can train the system or histological data sets from the reference 40 in this part with this convolutional neural networks. This is the kind of the architecture from the deep learning, inception version 3, and convolutional neural networks, recurrent neural networks, and long short-term memory, autoencoder, and other architecture from deep learning. So again, this is from the reference 41. We can make enhancement with the contrast and image convolution with as a segmentation or binary conversion, and we can train the system with the machine learning algorithms with the in histology to detect some problems, or maybe some areas, maybe some cancer types, or maybe some problems in histology images. Again, this is another kind of histology use case from the reference 42 for the breast cancer histology images. These are breast images, and this is the converted version of that images. If we train the system, this image, we can detect the breast cancer easily, and this automated system will save energy and work for our fast daily life. So generally, deep learning algorithms are being used in this kind of that application, especially in the computer vision application, in the bioinformatics, in the natural language processing, or also for the other area like the finance, for example, transportation, and especially computer networks, and healthcare, also for the other types of use cases. In biopsy, also, it's possible to use the AI, like the web-based automated machine learning platform, uh, in order to analyze liquid biopsy data. So if you use the lab analysis, so we can classify the blood cells, like these are DNA, these are proteins, and this is tumor. So we can design our classifier with the 3 or 4 classes. It's up to us, it's up to application, our application. Class number 1 can be the tumor, class number 2 is a protein, and class number 3 is a DNA for biopsy images, especially in oncology use case. This is this is the shape of flow cytometry device. Actually, this is the inside. This is the inside of that flow cytometry device. It looks like a printer. Its size looks like the printer. So when we put a blood cells or blood in a tube, it drops, and these are some lasers with different frequencies. So in this liquid, they have the different laser source, and these electronic systems will show the shape of that blood cells for each drop, and the shaded area in this part will be saved in the computer. So these shaded areas will give us our data sets. So these are shaded areas, and these are data sets. So this is also the typical, this is also the classical clustering problem in data science, in artificial intelligence or machine learning. Why? Because it has not a label, because we don't know how many different shapes these blood cells have, or which one is better, which one is the best, which one is the worst. We don't know. We only have this kind of data sets, and we are trying to cluster these data sets for disease detection, actually. So generally in hospitals, specialists has been doing manually with their hands. They use, for example, a digital pen, and they click this, for example, this point belongs to this point, and this point belongs to blues, reds, blue, reds, and they click on the data manually with the digital pens. It takes time, it takes energy, and it can be also the wrong result. It can give the wrong result, because this will be subjective, not objective. So if we develop an automated system with a cluster-based system, in order to cluster the flow cytometry data, and this system will give us the clustered system and the clustered results automatically as an objective result. This is another kind of use case in AI in biopsy. Again, we can train the system in reference 44 for the breast cancer. We can use the deep learning based algorithms to detect tumors for that data sets. We came to challenge parts. Actually, we completed the use cases of AI in healthcare. I will continue with the challenges. And after that, actually, we have lots of articles again from the literature. So if time permits us, I will show some of them to you as a title. So I will try to give a new perspectives for use cases in AI actually. So what are the challenges for AI in healthcare? It can be ineffective for analysis. It's possible because when we develop AI-based system in healthcare, it may not give 100% accuracy. It's quite normal. It's quite normal. But we have to also use some borders. For example, the system must, we can say that, or the doctors can say, the system must give more than 90% accuracy. Otherwise, they can also eliminate, they can not believe the result of that automated system. They cannot believe the software. So how can we check it? In the testing part, we check, or in the validation part, we check our system and we give that result to the doctors or that responsible persons. We say that as an engineer or researcher or as a company, our system or our device or our software gives, for example, 93% accuracy. So generally, they believe they say it's good enough for the diagnosis part, so they can use it. But how about if we have a low accuracy, like 40% accuracy, or 50, maybe 20, maybe 10? It means we have to work on it and we have to increase the accuracy with some approach, some signal processing, filtering, computer vision based approach, not only for the machine learning algorithm based approach, also for the other approach. So we are trying to think as an entire system, and we are trying to increase the accuracy of the system in that part. So if we have low accuracy, we have to think about it again, and we have to increase the accuracy of the system. So the security is one of the challenge. So is it possible to lose our data sets in computer, in internet? Yes, it's possible. So actually it's kind of this cyber security problem in our, also for our daily life, our mobile phones, also for our computers, iPads, and also for other electronic devices. Privacy is other important part, because doctors, also healthcare companies cannot share their patients' data with anyone. So generally, we use the anonymization part. So we anonymize the data. For example, if that sample has any specific name, like first name A and last name B, the hospital or the doctor or the automated system can delete the name and add any new ID number, for example, ID1, ID2, ID3. It doesn't matter what name, what's the name for the ID number 3. It's a patient, it's a sample from the data sets as a line. So this is another important part for the AI. This is another challenge in AI as a privacy, especially in healthcare. Also, data data quality, because when we use the real data, it means we have to work lots of weeks, maybe lots of months, or maybe sometimes years in the data pre-processing part. We have to normalize it. We have to remove the repetitions. Sometimes we need to augment the data sets. We need to use the data augmentation algorithms. And sometimes we use some scale operators and some statistical approach, some probabilistic approach. So generally, it's really hard to have a good data sets from real world data sets. So it takes time, and it needs lots of approach from the other disciplines to have good enough data and accuracy results. So if our data is not good enough, so the results will be bad, and we have to care about it in the especially data pre-processing part. Other challenge in AI in healthcare is taking the clinical notes and understanding them in the right context and editing the medical imaging data and detection of the data on biomarkers and volume. We know computational complexity is high for maybe most of the machine learning and AI-based applications. So we have to use clusters. We have to use maybe sometimes workstations, sometimes maybe the other machines, specific machines, also quantum computing and quantum computers. I think the quantum computers will be the fastest computers in the world in the next few years, because when we train system, it means we have for example, image means the matrix or lots of the matrices. In algorithms, we have lots of the matrix operations like multiplication, normalization, transpose, eigenvalue, eigenvector, norm, and determinant, and some addition, subtraction, and lots of units. So sometimes when we run our complete program, it may give the results after 2 hours, after 5 hours, or after 2 days. If you if you pat on the run button as a function file, you can see your results after 2 days. Is it efficient? No, it's not efficient. Generally, we expect to see at the same times in 1 second or 2 seconds, because life is fast, and sometimes we need to see the results maybe in 1 minute, maybe in 30 seconds. So data volume is also another challenge in that part. Velocity is also another challenge, and it comes with the need to handle the speed and which new data is created or existing data is updated. And other challenges are variety and variability, value, explainability. Actually, the explainable artificial intelligence, XAI, is one of the hot topic in this part. So we have to check this inside of that black box. What does it mean? This, for example, treatment or detection or classification result. Also, the causability is another challenge in AI. Now it's 3:30 p.m. We have the 20 minutes for the presentation. Then we will have 10 minutes for Q&A session. So now I'm checking the time is 33 is 30 is 3:30 p.m. and I would like to continue with other scientific papers from other scientific databases, some journals, maybe some conference papers under the use cases that I mentioned at the beginning of that presentation for AI. In this slide, you can see the source of that scientific paper. It has the graph neural model for overlapping entity relation extraction in biomedical text. So we can use biomedical text. We can also use lab reports. We can construct also the chatbot. For example, you can say, I have a headache, and the system can give, please take this medicine, and so on. And this is the unsupervised discovery of information structure in biomedical documents publication. And it's also related with the biomedical documents. And this is the prediction of the microbiomes through a deep latent space. And the other ones is about the drug discovery. It focus on the drug resistance. Sometimes researchers focus on drug dosing for their toxic problems. So drug resistance, drug toxics, drug dosing, and drug discovery are popular titles for AI in healthcare. Also, we can develop a system from the biomedical literature, and you can ask any question to that system as a chatbot. You can see from the bank websites, you can write, I have to open an account and I have to see my credit card list, also for the others. You can see the results. So this can be also for the biomedical literature. For example, you can ask if my skin is red, what does it mean? And the system will give, it means you have this problem, or you can take these medicines from the pharmacies. And this publication is about the cancer drug response, again, using a recommendation system. And this can be also the drug protein behavior and drug interaction, because when you take one drug, it doesn't problem, but when you take more than one, as a 2, 3, or 4 drugs, they have interaction, and they may have a problem if you take at the same time. So this is another title with the drug-drug interaction, also from the proteomics, the protein-protein interaction, because they affect each other, and we have to check what's going on if the people take, for example, these 2 medicines. Because when you check them alone, it doesn't problem. But when they check together about the result, this will be more complicated. And this is also the anti-cancer drug synergy prediction article. And this is another article with extraction of drug-drug interaction using the neural embedding. And we can also use the RNA protein interactions under the AI in healthcare. And we can predict the cancer from the histology and genomics using, for example, convolutional networks, deep learning, also for other machine learning approaches. This is the prediction of the cancer life cycle. You can see the biopsy, and we can give the results or the images to the system after the deep learning structure, after the convolutional neural network. The system will give results in this publication, like the cancer results. Again, this is about the cancer detection and the biomarker discovery. We can use the AI for the biomarker discovery, and we can use the AI in bioinformatics, genomics, especially in the microRNA and DNA sequencing, and target prediction, especially the target prediction, also one of that or structure prediction in the proteomics are important titles. And in AI healthcare, in gene expression analysis, and in the also for some spatial cell structures, we can define and we can classify if they are problem or not for the patient's body. We can also use the microscopic images, some bacterial types, also some virus types to detect some shapes, some problems, some also maybe other good things from that for that patient. This is the modification, post-translational modification using the deep learning structure and its prediction. Actually, this is another publication from that bioinformatics journal. And you can see we can have the variant impact prediction. For example, nowadays the Delta variant is important for the COVID-19. So the variant impact can be calculated or can be also developed with the machine learning based algorithms to have more accurate predictions, to have more good results or any kind of disease results in healthcare, especially under the virology or bacteriology parts in healthcare. You can see we can use the AI for protein secondary structure prediction, the secondary structure prediction, and Escherichia coli bacteria using the protein expression analysis in Escherichia coli bacteria. We can use AI in the microscopic images or electron microscope image segmentation. We can use the deep learning for electron microscopic image segmentation. And we can predict some microRNA disease associated with some network problems in the patient's body. And we can develop any intelligent system for DNA binding protein types in this publication, like using the ensemble learning methods from the Journal of Bioinformatics and Computational Biology. And this is another application, scientific application with here LSTM means the long short-term memory from deep learning architectures. We can work on the gene expression prediction based on the deep learning approach. And we can see protein-protein interactions like the drug-drug interactions using some machine learning approach like the random forest. It's actually the decision tree based algorithm. And for the others, this is another kind of application from the scientific databases, the pathology, from the pathology, detecting the cancer with the deep learning. And this is another publication, another article from the literature. It uses structural characterization and classification of RNA, ribonucleic acid, RNA, sequence microbiome data. So you can see these are generally the healthcare-based journals or maybe conferences, but they use the artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms intensively. So in the near future, biotechnology or bioengineering or biomedical engineering will be more important and also more this interdisciplinary research, not only for the healthcare, but also for the social science, educational science, also for the other sciences will be more important after artificial intelligence improvements. This is another publication, and it detects the non-invasive breathing change. This is another publication, and it processed the biomedical text via the deep neural networks, like the topic detection or maybe anomaly detection, and also opinion, also giving some scores. This is also another application with the named entity recognition, biomedical named entity recognition. This is another publication for the metabolic pathway prediction. So we can make analysis on the metabolic pathway prediction using deep learning architecture, or also for it can be also for other machine learning architectures or algorithms. In this part, in this publication, you can see some proteomics in AI, like the search engine scoring functions, and they can see the author's motivations and abstract and the source of that publication for prediction in proteomics. So this is again using the deep learning architectures like CNN and LSTM for protein affinity prediction. So we can make the protein affinity prediction with AI, like in this publication. This is another publication, and its title is the orthogonal matrix factorization enables integrative analysis of multiple RNA binding proteins. So we can use again for not only for single RNA proteins, but also for the multiple RNA proteins. For machine learning, it can be used as a matrix factorization. This is an unsupervised learning algorithm in machine learning, and also principal component analysis, singular value decomposition, and self-organized maps are also, or k-means clustering algorithms are also other clustering methods in machine learning, but others prefer to use the matrix factorization. They sometimes use the orthogonal or non-negative or quadratic or other types of the matrix factorization in their research. Again, we can use incremental RNA data to have a prediction. And this is the gene ontology and orthogonal non-negative matrix factorization article from Journal of Bioinformatics. And this is the peptide peak linking method using the wavelet transform and SVM. Here, SVM means the support vector machines, and this is the a method, a classification, a supervised method in machine learning, and its name is support vector machine. So we can use them in the peptide peak linking method. Again, we can use some gene expression data for microRNAs, like here in this article, and with the local context for named entity recognition and bacterial species fingerprints, and some single cell transcriptomes machine learning architectures can be used for single cell transcriptomes. This is the generative adversarial networks. We call it GAN, or generative adversarial network. This is the architecture of the deep learning. So that's why it has a deep feature extraction words in the title. This is the molecular interaction transformer as a drug target prediction or drug target interaction prediction. Again, we can see some microbiomes and drug associations. So AI also can be used to drug associations, like in this publication, in this article, and these resources. And again, this article is about the cancer classification with the gene expression data. And we can predict the microcyclization patterns or polyketids and non-ribosomal peptides. You can see lots of the specific terms, keywords from the healthcare can be combined with AI to have prediction, to have the classification result or clustering result. This is about the variants. So this is about, I think, the messenger RNA, mRNA, and this is about the microscopy data. And this article about the infections, and this article about the protein fold recognition. In this article, I think authors use the scoring protein maps approach in this journal, in this article. This is the primary structure and domain embeddings for assessing protein toxicity article. So you can see for variants, for toxicity, for drug-drug interaction, protein interaction, genomics, proteomics, also for other bioinformatics based approach can be used with the AI approach to have predictions and more results. This is the metagenomic sequence classification with the higher order Markov models. And this is the, again, about the protein molecules. This is the about the map prediction and genomics for in human cancers and spatial regions in the microarray data again. And the RNN model means the recurrent neural networks, kind of that deep learning approach. Actually, here PCA means that the principal component analysis method for tumor and single cell sequencing data. So we are trying to sequence data with the PCA as an unsupervised learning method as a principal component analysis from the machine learning. Okay, I think we have 1 minute to finish our lecture, our session today. I will mention 1 or 2 slides and we can continue with the question and answer session for this session. This is the CNN, kind of the deep learning approach, convolutional network approach to lung cancer classification, and it integrates the protein interaction network and gene expression profiles. Okay, this slide can be the last slide for our today's session. Also, gene signatures can be defined or can be discovered in prostate cancer, also for other cancer types with artificial intelligence and machine learning based algorithms. Okay, thank you so much. This is I really enjoyed this presentation and meet with you. Thank you for your patience in the middle of this summer. Let me check some messages, and we will continue with the quick Q&A session. Let me stop my screen sharing and we can continue with our questions. Okay, we have some questions. Roughly what % of drug side effects do you think could be predicted by knowing a patient's genome? Do you think it's more than half of them? Yes, I think so. I think it's more than half of them, but we have to take a look from the literature actually to in order to make sure about the drug side effects. Where the second one is where does the efficiency numbers, sensitivity, specificity, and cluster around across the use cases? Is one of subfield application lower than the other? Actually, these are some metrics from the literature when we use maybe clustering methods or classification methods, or when we compare different classifiers, for example, 2 different classifiers, 3, 4, maybe 10 different classifiers, we use these confusion matrix results to have more accurate analysis with the sensitivity, specificity, and precision, recall, accuracy, F1 score, and other possible measures for the classifications, and normalized mutual information, entropy score, they are generally for the clustering approach. Actually, these use cases and these specific problems they have their own sensitivity, specificity results, but we have to check the specific points. I'm trying to only give the perspective, the taxonomy of that artificial intelligence for healthcare. Okay, I think we have the answer here, means that across the use cases. I don't know if we will provide the slides. Please ask this question to the Magnimind Academy, but I'm sure they will release in YouTube, their YouTube channel, so you can see the slides from this YouTube channel from the Magnimind Academy. Have you seen any applications of reinforcement learning in healthcare? Yes, there are lots of applications about reinforcement learning, but in the last decade, researchers generally focus on deep learning architectures, support vector machine, neural networks, and also a few more, but reinforcement learning also one of the most important algorithm in the machine learning. So I saw some important applications and important articles, scientific articles, which use the reinforcement learning. Anonymous and Kauter Claro asked a question. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Kauter, also for your patience for attending this session. Can you please explain how can we use the acoustic recognition in healthcare? And acoustic recognition, actually, we need to collect data. So if we collect the data, then we can, the acoustic recognition, then we can use some signal processing based approach and signal processing based algorithms to have more robust data sets. After that robust data sets, if you need to put labels in data sets manually, you can do that, or you can use any simulation to labelize the data. Then you can classify, you can train the system with a part of that data sets, and you can test the system, and you can find the labels, you can find the classification results for the system. If you don't want to use any labels, so this will be the clustering problem. So after collecting the data sets, you can use some clustering algorithms like the principal component analysis, matrix factorization, k-means clustering, and self-organizing maps, autoencoder, and also other unsupervised clustering algorithms. Yes, it's possible to cluster or to classify the acoustic data set in healthcare. Yes, this is one of the important question in healthcare. The other question is that some of the papers you showed from the journal Bioinformatics had a picture and unlocked lock, and others were labeled free. What's the difference between open access and yes, journals have some actually policy. They sometimes release the publications for all peoples, and they may also need in the payment to see the inside of that paper. So that's why we have sometimes free label and locked label in that paper. If you need to see, you have to sign up that if you need to see that article, you have to sign up that journal, or if you are a member of any organization, any research organization, for example, from if you are a student or if you are a researcher in any university or company, if your institute is subscribed that scientific database, so when you use your email and password and click on that scientific database, you will see all articles will be free. So you need to have the institutional login details, or you need to have personal login details, maybe some password to see the articles or the other maybe reports, maybe electronic books, not for the scientific articles, maybe some conference proceeding books and other resources about that journal. What are some examples of deep reinforcement learning in healthcare? Deep reinforcement learning, healthcare can be used, especially with the vision-based algorithms, I believe. Yes, for example, for the cancer detection, tumor, brain tumor detection, skin cancer detection, maybe colon cancer detection, they are based the vision applications. So you can use deep reinforcement learning for especially detection of the cancer in the computer vision based, not for maybe sequential based like the RNA or DNA sequences, but you can try the computer vision, but I'm sure this will also work for the other sequential data sets. Okay. Thank you for your questions, patience, and these are great questions for all of us. Thank you so much, and it's 4 p.m. right now. Thank you again, and have a great day, have a great night for all around the world. Thank you so much.